Welcome to Democratic Television, a program of the Santa Clara County Democratic Party that brings insights, perspectives, and attitudes of our always thoughtful Democratic guests. Today we're joined by Alexis Ringwald, an entrepreneur and someone who's done a lot of cool stuff in her very young life. Alexis, thanks for being on DTV.
Thank you for having me.
Before we get going in terms of all the stuff you're involved with now and maybe some prognosis into the future, where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to high school? A little background.
Yeah, I'm a California native. I grew up in Orange County, went to school down in Laguna Hills, and had a wonderful kind of youth, childhood growing up with my family. And then ended up in college. I went to Yale University and did my bachelor's degree and a master's degree over there. And then ended up moving to India and then to Silicon Valley right after that.
Wow. Well, that was quite a trip. Let's go back to OC.
Yeah.
When you were going to school, to elementary, junior high, did you have aspirations or think, I want to get involved in technology, I wanted to travel to India, I wanted to change the world?
I couldn't even anticipate the things that were going to happen, actually. I was just a voracious learner. Starting in 8th grade, I started taking a lot of classes at community colleges. So my grandfather had been a president of a community college in Cerritos, and my mother had taught at community colleges, and so I started taking classes to kind of enhance what I was learning in the public schools and really add on. And so I was just taking all kinds of classes, started doing French and Spanish and German, really got into foreign languages. So I guess I felt like one day, in order to be prepared as a U.S. citizen, I needed to understand the world and be able to communicate.
That's a very impressive thought for a young person, or for any person, but for a young person, when you could be surfing.
Yeah, I guess I love being able to communicate with people. And I think learning a few words of someone else's language opens up an entire world.
So I always like to hear what influences you may have had, and I think you just told me your mother, your grandfather, other people like that, any notable presidents of the United States or governors of California?
I think as a child, my mother had the greatest impact. She's a single parent, and she worked hard to make sure I got a great education. I went to ballet classes, and that taught me discipline and choreography. And I think I learned from ballet that you not only choreograph dances, but you kind of choreograph your life. And so, kind of going with that artistic plus all of the educational things I was doing, she really had a huge impact in kind of helping me come where I am now.
Well, I bet she's very proud.
Yeah, she's great.
What was your desire to go to Yale all about? You may have been able to go anywhere.
Yeah, Yale was about trying to go global. Yale had a huge program to kind of become the international university and a very strong international student population. So I went there to kind of see what the East Coast would be like and then potentially use that as a springboard to further adventures across the globe. And going to Yale was like 4 years of summer camp. It was beautiful. It was incredible learning, philosophy, literature, history, biology, all kinds of classes. And it was there that I entered as a biology major, but while there ended up getting incredibly passionate, obsessed with the idea of the issue of climate change and renewable energy. I did a spring break internship at a power plant in Ohio. They allow you to do these 1-week internships with alumni, and I signed up randomly to go to Ohio to work at a power plant. And from there, learned how we make energy, and saw the burning of fossil fuels, and thought, all right, I got to go fix this.
You say randomly, but was that your choice to go to that power plant because a Yale graduate was there and was open to taking students?
Yeah, I mean, it was my choice, and there are all these different options, and I really am not quite sure how I picked going to the power plant. I'd done one spring break internship at like AOL, and so I kind of thought, well, let's go try something totally foreign to me. Go to the center of the country and see what happens there and see how we make energy, which is fundamental to how we live our lives.
And this was a basic power plant. It wasn't the future, it was the present, maybe the past and the present.
Right, it was a coal-based power plant, and it was that was where I saw that we extract coal from the earth, we burn it, it causes local pollution. It was affecting a community nearby that we went to visit, and it struck me that the fact that I turn on my lights at Yale and we pull power from across the grid, and it's affecting these people, these kids in this school near this power plant, really drove home to me how we need to think about clean energy solutions for the country.
Did you have discussions at that time with the mentor or the person from Yale who was doing this, and did that person have mixed feelings about what he or she was doing? Or
that person luckily was working on the environmental affairs group of this power plant. It was called American Electric Power, the largest coal utility in the country. And so I went there purposely. I was working with the environmental kind of climate change group of this large power company. And so no, that's kind of what launched my strong interest into tackling this issue.
So you graduated from Yale. At some point, maybe right after that, you became a Fulbright scholar. What does that mean? How did you become that, and what did you do?
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to go abroad after college. During college, I spent a summer working in Paris at the International Chamber of Commerce, and I spent my semester abroad in Berlin working with the German Parliament on their Energy and Environment Committee. And then I did a following summer in India on renewable energy, and that's where I got exposed to seeing how India is a huge topic it needs to focus on. I ended up applying for the Fulbright and moved there after college. I ended up staying there almost 3 years. The intention was to go for a 1-year research scholarship. It's funded by the U.S. State Department, and you can research whatever topic you want. And my topic was around clean energy technologies and business models, and looking at how India, with 1.2 billion people, was going to pursue a clean energy strategy. And were they going to follow the path of the U.S., which had been dependent on coal, oil, and gas, or were they going to pursue kind of leapfrog and move towards solar and wind and renewables? So that was the topic that I wanted to study, and I went out there to kind of see what that country was doing, what 1/6 of the world's population was doing in this area.
And a part of what you did was do a road trip. And could you describe the road trip? What was that like? What did you do? What were your goals? Did you get flat tires?
Yeah, so I guess the road trip was pretty wild. I was wrapping up the Fulbright scholarship and had spent the year learning Hindi and then visiting entrepreneurs across the country who were doing interesting things in wind and solar and green buildings. And I'd seen all these incredible technologies and projects, and I thought, how can I communicate what's happening in India with the rest of the world? How can we show both local Indians as well as people in other countries what's happening in this country? So a friend and I teamed up, and we came up with this idea to do a climate solutions road tour to travel across India in 3 solar plug-in electric cars to document all the solutions that we'd seen during our time in India. So we got a group of friends from the Indian Youth Climate Network. There are like 15 of us, plus a solar rock band, because you can't do a road tour without music. And all of their instruments are solar powered. They're from New York, actually. And they flew out. And we had a troupe of Bollywood dancers. They were kind of one of India's leading Bollywood dance choreographers sent some Bollywood dancers to meet us. So we went across the country, 2,500 miles, from Chennai to Bangalore, Hyderabad, Bombay, all the way up to Delhi, to document all the innovations we'd seen, entrepreneurs, cool projects, biofuels, and green buildings, as well as have these like climate solution concerts with the rock band and the dancers, and really excite and engage young people at universities. And then we met the president of India at the end of the trip. We kind of pull up in our electric cars and honk and go meet the president. But we didn't have any flat tires. We did have a few minor accidents. But we managed to get across the entire country, plugging the electric cars in every 100 miles. And we were plugging in at temples and universities and even gas stations that we came across in India. We'd pull up and the gas station attendant had never seen an electric car, and we were like, this is the wave of the future. But it was really exciting, and most importantly, we wanted to show people that the technologies already do exist, and if we can do it in India, where the electrical infrastructure is very kind of not that strong, we could do it anywhere, particularly the U.S. And it was about saying we have the solutions now. It's all about us just implementing them and making them happen.
So who did you get to believe in you to fund something like that? It sounds to me like it would have been quite an endeavor, and probably a lot of advanced planning, so you know where there were electrical plugs. That's every right. 100 miles, and where you'd find a positive reception, and I guess in some cases where you might find media that were interested in helping document what you were doing.
That's right. It was actually a 9-month-long planning process, but I was working on it on the side as I was starting up another company. But it was crazy. We got incredible support from the U.S. State Department, actually. They love this idea. They thought this was a beautiful example of the U.S., like there's some Americans on board, plus Indian youth coming together to figure out the fact that we have the solutions to climate change and the time to act is now. So they were actually one of our main sponsors, which was phenomenal. We also had support from local Indian companies like Infosys. They're one of the leading IT companies. And we had support from local solar companies that were there. And Yale was a sponsor. They thought, if you're going to do this road tour, make sure everybody hears about it. So they supported our PR team, which traveled with us for the entire trip. And we were on MTV India and 400 newspapers across the country in all the local languages. So I think what I realized from that trip is that when you have like a kind of a mad or a crazy idea, but you really believe so much in it, and it has so much good will and good energy that's going to come out of it, like all these positive forces came to support us and believe in this like totally insane project. I mean, some people were worried, there'd be danger along the way, but which certainly there was. But in general, all of this great energy came towards helping mobilize this, and it's really grateful to kind of see it happen.
So your mom was okay with you going?
She actually came on the trip.
Oh my God!
My mom came. I had my mom, the Solar Rock Band. It was a crazy adventure. We were staying at university campuses along the way. One night we actually we'd planned carefully every single charge where we're gonna stop. One night we'd stayed too long at some. It was a camp where they're trying to, they're anti-nuclear. And we stayed too long, we were too engaged with the community, so it was getting too late, we couldn't make our next stop. So we pulled off the road into this hotel, which turned out to be a former Maharaja palace.
Oh.
And we pull in, and it's like 10:30 at night, and we show up, and we kind of knock on the door to get in, and the receptionist is like, let me call the prince. So we're like, okay, so suddenly the prince of this palace, he's the Maharaja, was like sweeps in and just arrives, and it's 11 o'clock at night. He's like, welcome to my palace. So we end up having dinner there, and it turns out this prince, his last name, he's of the Surya dynasty, which means solar. So he's and so he's all about the sun, and his main job, actually, because it's difficult to make money as a prince, you're kind of slowly wasting away your savings. His main job, he actually was an organic farmer, and he had like a worm farm where he was making organic fertilizer. And he's building a solar AIDS hospital. So it was very ironic that we kind of ended up in this Maharaja's palace who was all about clean energy.
Perfect.
So lots of adventures.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, part 2.
Great.
Don't go away.
Hi, I'm Santa Clara County Supervisor Dave Cortese, and one of the things that people ask me all the time is, how can I get involved? How can I make a difference? I have people contact me, constituents, who say, I'm ready to be involved more with my community. What do you recommend? Well, one of the things I would recommend is getting involved with the local Democratic Party. It's not only something that you can and should do as a Democrat, but it can be something very inspiring. This is the party that stands up for people most in need, and they can certainly use your help. As an elected official, I know that. As a Democratic activist in my own right, I know that you can make a difference by being involved on a day-to-day basis with our local Democratic Party. Want to know how to contact them? Do it by phone, 408-445-9500. Or go to their website, www.sccdp.org. Your local Democratic Party, a great place to get involved.
Welcome back to Democratic Television. Alexis, we were talking about your wild and crazy odyssey through India. A lot of great experiences. What came out of that for you? I mean, a sense of a can-do, we can build anything if we put our minds to it, or?
Definitely. I think out of India came 2 things. One is the last startup that I just started, and number 2 is the current one that I'm working on. So the project that I just completed, I was in India. I met a software entrepreneur from Silicon Valley at a conference in Delhi, and we ended up coming together and launching a company called Valence Energy, which was based in Santa Clara. and we teamed up with a group of engineers from Santa Clara University to do energy software for commercial buildings. And so that was my first startup experience, building a team, putting together a product, and realizing, if you want to change the world, one great way to do it is build a company and create a product that actually will help people address energy usage, save money on their bills.
Are you implying that that didn't exist, or that you found a better way to do it, or both?
I found, I think, transitioning from my kind of activist and research phase towards turning it into a business was a really powerful way to actually make a difference. And so that's what I've been doing the last 2 years, launching Valence Energy and having our company grow and become successful.
So how do you go from being a student and a world traveler to developing a company within such a short amount of time? It's just, people spend their whole lives doing that, and you're just beginning.
I'm still just beginning. I'm still learning, but luckily the first one we had great co-founder and great mentors around us to help nurture this young team who believed that they could build something. So we got our first product out there. We got initial users, big enterprises and school districts here in the Bay Area who believed in the product. They believed in the vision. They said, we'll try it out. And we started seeing results, reducing energy bills for different organizations here in the Bay Area. And we were gaining momentum and really taking off. A lot of school kids, particularly around here, thought it was really empowering for them to be able to save energy on their school bills for the school kind of
so
the
they
budget
get
crisis.
Feedback on energy usage and realize, do we really need this power usage at this time of day? And
that's right, real-time energy data, kind of empowering people with that information.
I know those are things the utility companies are trying to get us to do with smart meters, and I think if we pay more attention to them, we really will be able to use that tool as you're doing with companies, helping them save money and saving other things.
That's right. That's right.
So you founded this company and then sold it, and how's the company doing now?
Yeah, so it was amazing. We were getting a lot of traction, and particularly among school districts, and we attracted the attention of a local Bay Area company in Sunnyvale called Sirius Energy. They do green building materials. They're really cutting edge, and they loved what we were doing, and they do energy efficient windows and energy efficient drywall materials, and they said, great, well, we'd like to include you guys in what we're doing. So they acquired us in the end of 2010, and it was a great success for our young team to kind of move from kind of building the team, building the product, and then now joining this larger company, which would help the product scale and get more traction.
And is that happening for Sirius?
Yeah, it's become a really key product in the suite that they offer, and they're taking it to all their customers, and it's really growing and taking off.
Well, how exciting!
Yeah, it's been
Bet
great.
your mom's proud of that too.
Very proud.
What else are you doing?
So being the entrepreneur, I'm constantly motivated by huge challenges that kind of inspire me to take action. So climate change has been something that possessed me for the most recent period of my life. And I think increasingly in working with a lot of school districts, I began to think a lot about more education issues in the country. And in particular, I think moving from India to Silicon Valley 2 years ago and seeing, India, everything's growing, the economy's booming, people are educating their kids, they're getting jobs. And then coming here to Silicon Valley and seeing there's a lot of vacant office space and there's a lot of unemployment and a lot of our kids are dropping out of school. And just seeing that contrast, I think has really moved me and made me realize what can I do to tackle this issue. So most recently I've now left to start new entrepreneurial ventures in the area of figuring out how do we address education and the workforce, and coming up with a new project to make a difference.
Can you describe that a little bit? It sounds pretty darn important.
Yeah, I realized first step is I need to go learn more about the situation. So I've spent the last few months with Work to Future and NOVA. These are the local workforce investment boards here in the Bay Area, and they've been more than welcome. Said, great, you're an entrepreneur, want to help solve some problems, come on in and see what we're doing. So I've been hanging out at the local unemployment offices, spending time in the line, chatting with people, surveying them, and just chatting and asking people, why are you unemployed? How do you retrain yourself? What are the skills you're trying to get? How are you finding work? Really just to listen to people and figure out what their pain points are, and understand what is it that's happening in America.
So how do you separate out what you hear from the pain and the depression and the fear and all that, and put forth sort of an agenda of, yes, we can. Here are things that you can do in your life to turn that around.
Yeah, I think that's the entrepreneur in me who sees that pain and that those problems and says, like, there are solutions. It's really about us just taking action and doing something about it. We can't just wait for solutions just to arrive. It's about us mobilizing and coming together and creating those jobs and creating those products that will solve the issue. In fact, actually, in spending a lot of time at these unemployment offices in Silicon Valley, I found incredibly talented people with master's degrees and law degrees and amazing skills. And I actually was thinking, how can we just launch 50 startup companies, 50 small businesses out of this pool of people who is actually seeking work? It's about us creating the jobs.
So your solution for people, or your path, would be, this isn't about getting a job on an assembly line, to go with an old stereotype. It's about developing your own business.
I think that's one of the solutions. One of the things I learned is that since 1980, all net new jobs in America have been created by businesses less than 5 years old. So basically, the hub of job creation comes from small businesses and startups. It's about kind of us creating those and coming together and building the companies. That's where the jobs will come from.
And so I guess my question, this is not rhetoric. This is about a real path that people can take using real tools and making major life changes along the way.
Definitely. And the project that I'm trying to do in particular is called Learn Up. It's going to be a kind of a social network for retraining. It's about coming on there, seeing what your peers are learning, seeing what other people have learned, seeing what the learning path is that they've taken, and how can you get yourself the skills that you need to either get a job that exists or create your own job. So that I'm a believer of, I'm going to create a business that will hopefully create jobs, and I hope this tool actually empowers other people as well.
So two things. One is this something that is geared for young people that are very comfortable, proficient with new social media? And do you have some examples that kind of give flesh to this potential?
Yeah, I mean, it's still early days. It's like kind of the natural process of the startup. Sure. As we're building it, it'll be interesting to see who actually does use it. That's kind of the thing. Sometimes you put it out there and you find that one particular demographic is really going after it. It's like, women who are in their 40s, or it's, 20-somethings. So it'll be interesting, I think, to see who does find it useful. But the idea is it empowers people with the skills that they need to kind of learn up and get into their next career.
Is that where the name came from?
Yeah.
So interesting about demographics. So because that implies targeting this new product to different communities wherever they may be. You expect to launch and have this maybe up and running, say by early 2012 at the latest.
Definitely.
And you think this is going to bring a new model of search and employment and income.
Yeah, I hope it really brings people the ability to figure out what they need to learn in order to be employable. I think some of the challenges I've heard from people is that they've been laid off, they don't even know what skills they need, they don't know where to find them, they don't know what the employers want. So this is really to try and kind of bring that through a social network, make it fun, and help people find what it is that they need to learn in order to get to the next place they want to go.
And are some of the people that you're working with on this employers that are saying, if you do this, we would be very interested in finding the kinds of people that would go through Learn Up?
All the employers I've talked to love this because they love the idea of having a more trained workforce who's applying for jobs. And so this would give kind of clarity, would help employers find people who are learning up in advance before applying. So it kind of lifts everyone up into kind of a higher quality group.
So we have just a few more minutes. It sounds like you really believe in entrepreneurship as the future, and sounds like you've thought about that a little bit. Speak to why people should think of an entrepreneurial approach to their future.
Yeah, I think the way things are going, increasingly people of my generation are expected to have, between like 12 and 25 jobs in their lifetime. people are less likely to stay with an employer. Our skills are atrophying a lot more quickly than they used to because of the requirements of picking up new technologies and using new tools. So I think increasingly all of us will have to be entrepreneurial in our careers and how we navigate the careers, and we'll be picking up new skills and then shifting to the next one and picking up new skills and kind of moving constantly. So this idea of lifelong learning is going to be part of what we have to do all the time. And I think as an entrepreneur, you are constantly learning new things, and it's about creating a solution and believing that you can pull together a team, create a product, and actually make a difference.
I would suspect people would like to know how to follow what you're doing, how to get hold of you. Do you have contact information you can share?
Yeah, I can be reached on Twitter at Alexis Ringwald. Anytime I'm on there, and it's kind of the way that I guess my generation communicates. I'm always talking about employment, education issues, and responsive to people who ever reach out to me there.
So do you still get time to do your ballet and those
Yeah.
kinds of things that were there in the formative years?
Yeah, still dancing, ballet, salsa, Argentine tango. It's very much a core part of my life.
And when do you think you'll be getting back to India?
I hope soon, actually. I mean, I love it here, but I also want to go back there, keep myself aware of what's happening globally, because I think the most successful U.S. citizens and people who be leading this country have a really very good, grounded global perspective about what's happening across the globe.
Great. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks for watching Democratic Television. Give us a call at 408-445-9500 or visit our website, www.sccdp.org. Help make a difference.
I'm United States Senator Barbara Boxer. Thank you for watching Democratic Television.